Hey there, and thanks for joining. Today, we're covering an increasingly important topic, cross-border warehousing and logistics needs, really adapting to the new realities in Mexico and the United States. My name is Brent Kavanaugh. I am Redwood's Executive Vice President of our strategic sales team, joined today by Javier Navarro, who is our Vice President of Strategic Solutions for Redwood Mexico, as well as Mark Lewis, who is our Vice President of our WMS Solutions team. Mark and Javier presented this content at the WERC Conference in Dallas on October 22nd. It was really well received, so we wanted to make sure to share that today with a broader audience. We're going to walk through a few important topics today. First, we're going to start with an introduction to Redwood. Then we'll really cover into a state of the cross-border landscape as it stands today, what we're seeing in the market. And then we'll close it out with a few warehousing examples where Redwood has deployed solutions on behalf of our customers that really bring it all together in terms of the cross-border needs and the current challenges in that space. In terms of a Redwood introduction, Redwood Logistics is a modern 4PL provider. We're headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, with offices throughout the United States and Mexico. Really been delivering solutions for moving and managing freight alongside supply chain technology solutions delivery for well over 20 years. Our offering includes digital freight brokerage, flexible freight management solutions, as well as supply chain integration services through Redwood Connect, which is a no-code, cloud-based open platform that enables Redwood's customers to really seamlessly integrate existing systems and platforms, as well as add new functionalities as they expand and adapt their businesses. From a technology landscape and perspective within the supply chain space, Redwood excels really at the delivery and configuration and value realization of WMS, TMS, as well as global trade management system implementations. I think we're really unique in the space because we not only integrate and implement WMS solutions, but we also have a managed distribution facilities throughout North America that we're using that same WMS platforms and suite of technologies as a customer and user within our own business, right? And that really gives us a really unique hands-on experience that we bring to the table when implementing those solutions on behalf of our customers. Redwood's been around since 2001, and really since 2010, we've been providing 4PL solutions that include things like engineering and solution design, all the way through system implementation and integration like TMS, global trade, and WMS. Things like API, pipeline design, and really leading into supply chain orchestration. And again, Redwood Connect, I think, really empowers our customers to build a really tailored digital ecosystem and how they bring that piece into their warehouse, right? Really enables our customers to select its logistics service providers and then seamlessly integrate those into a digital solution, really through a plug and play network, right? Any system, though, like a WMS, is only as good as, I think, the data inputs and outputs that are really going into that application. And Redwood Connect, you can think of that as the enabler of that integration and a way for our customers to deploy warehousing solutions. And that really helps them eliminate, the traditional IT burden that can a lot of times come along with a system and really a program like a WMS. Of our approximately 1,000 associates, about half specialize in logistics operations and freight management, while the other half focus on supply chain technology and digital solutions. And Redwood really bridges that gap between, the physical worlds of freight movement globally, and obviously as well as the cross-border piece within the United States and Mexico, but also the underlying technology platform utilization components to automate and more efficiently orchestrate that supply chain optimization. So now I'll hand it over to Javier Navarro, and he's going to give us an overview of really what Redwood is seeing within Mexico and the emergence and really acceleration of nearshoring. Javier, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Brian. So let's talk a little about this nearshoring trends. Now, a buzzword we've been hearing for a few years, but where does this come from? This came to be harder, I'd say, potentially in late 2018, after some of the Section 301 duties from China started hitting. A lot of the companies that decided to offshore in the late 80s, early 90s, and on, started manufacturing abroad in China to the lower costs. So that during that time, there was also a lot of growth in education, engineering, infrastructure in Latin America, specifically in Mexico, that started giving opportunity for companies to be more competitive, closer to the market that is the U.S. Right. So what are the main reasons that companies start nearshoring instead of offshoring? The first one, it's a logistics reason. So logistic reason, there's less supply chain disruptions. There's fewer delays. Why you're not as dependent on weather. The long distances between China and the U.S. could go from 10 days to 3 weeks transit time. If you're working just in time, that becomes an obligation for you to have some sort of inventory on site that could disrupt your lead times. Another one is lower carbon emissions. If you're closer, then the impact that you have on the environment is definitely lower, especially if you have a more strategic approach, if you have a well-planned network within North America, your impact into the environment is way, way lower. And the third one is it's more of a cultural part. So when working in different time zones, communication gets disrupted. You don't get messages on time at all times. But there's also fewer cultural and language barriers. One of the biggest advantages of Mexico today is that almost every graduated person from a university in Mexico is bilingual. Right. So in Mexico, there's a lot of emphasis in being bilingual because of the access and the easiness that it comes to make businesses between the U.S. and Mexico, and Mexican professionals are definitely prepared for that. So that all of those definitely support our strategy and the movement that's culturally now nearshoring, right? And Redwood is definitely trying to capitalize on that and support companies that are going through that trend right now and exploring that cultural change. So in the next slide, we're going to start seeing some of the numbers that we're trending between Mexico and the U.S. Mexico and the U.S. have always been close trading partners. We've been intertwined for many years, and for many years, Mexico's always been top 3, top 5 trading partner of the U.S. So now it's positioned unequivocally as the top trading partner. We can see the northern states of Mexico, the central Bajío part, also being heavy in industry, manufacturing, and trade with the U.S. That matches specifically with most of the products that the U.S. and Mexico interchange. That's basically automotive, machinery, electronics between the two countries, and we start definitely seeing increase every year in traffic and amount of trailers crossing and the value of cargo crossing, but also in infrastructure and the investment within Mexico highway networks, also in the rail network in Mexico, and the connectivity between the U.S. Right. So that paired with low labor cost, being close geographically, and having that easy access to different parts of the U.S. through Laredo, through Juarez, through Mexicali, it's definitely a big advantage to work with Mexican vendors and establishing companies in Mexico for U.S. companies. In the next slide, we're going to start seeing also how different companies are taking interest in Mexico. So this is definitely a record year in Mexico, 2024. I think as of recently, we're up at $34 billion invested and committed in Mexico by many different companies, right? Lately, companies like Kawasaki, Safran, LG, Bosch are increasing their investment in Mexico, are definitely bringing new plants, opening new sites, because they're seeing this trend. They join, of course, a very, very large group of companies that have been investing in our country for many, many years. But they're definitely trying to take advantage of all these benefits that is working in Mexico and bringing that into the U.S. market. Okay, now main border crossing points. Trying to bring this into how Redwood starts supporting this operation. Right, the Port of Laredo. It's always been one of the top main entry points for cargo into the U.S. For last year, Laredo was the top entry port into the U.S. above all, over Long Beach, over Chicago O'Hare. They're always there, top one, top two. And this is a trend that we're seeing, right? So if there's more companies investing in Mexico trying to serve the U.S. market, there's definitely going to be that increase in value and in volume through Laredo. Right, about 80% of the exports from Mexico into the U.S. go through the Laredo bridges. We're seeing crossing, in average, about 12,000 trailers back and forth every day through that border crossing, and it's definitely one of the most important points between the U.S. and Mexico trade, and one that is definitely critical for the success in Mexico cross-border trade, and Redwood supporting that. Right, and how can Redwood start supporting companies that try to take advantage of this scenario, take advantage of the nearshoring? We have three main scenarios where we can develop for you through our presence in Laredo, in El Paso, and other border crossing points. The first one is southbound supplier consolidation, right? So we have many companies have manufacturing in Mexico, but they need multiple inputs from different U.S. companies that before used to serve another company in the U.S. So we bring those cargo mainly in LTL form, sometimes in FTL form, into a facility in Laredo where we consolidate, we help with border crossing, we help with customs U.S., Mexico, and then deliver into a facility in Mexico, ready for goods to be assembled, to be consumed, to be distributed in the Mexican market, or whatever the scenario is for a company. Scenario number two for us is a northbound cargo consolidation and distribution. So this is basically the opposite. There's many suppliers in Mexico that are providing different types of goods for a company. We bring all of those again to the border, we consolidate, and from there we can deliver to different distribution centers. We have customers that have multiple distribution centers across the U.S., 7, 12, 13 different distribution centers. And from the Laredo border, we're able to distribute to all of those so you can reach your market way easily. And the third one, it's one that we use a lot, especially for companies that still bring a lot of cargo from Asia for manufacturing sites both in the U.S. and in Mexico. So cargo coming from Asia through Long Beach, we're able to move that inbound to our El Paso facility, and from there we can distribute some part to the Mexican market and part to the U.S. market, and continue to move that. By us doing that, companies are able to still leverage the benefits and low cost of bringing some cargo from Asia, but also use Mexican facilities, Mexican suppliers, or Mexican distributors to move that cargo, and you can consolidate on both ends, both in the sea freight and both on the destination. Right? All those three scenarios are the core of what we support warehousing-wise in the cross-border freight in Mexico. Now I'm gonna leave this with Mark Lewis to share a couple of success scenarios that we have had in this industry.
Yeah, thank you, Javier. So Javier talked about bigger strategies, bigger logistics strategy, and the things that are going on. And I thought I would drill down as the warehousing person here into some of the things we're doing within those facilities and some of the differences that we're encountering and how we're setting those things up in order to optimize the success of a cross-border solution. And so the first example, and I'll go into this one a little bit more in detail, and then the second one I won't have to do as much. The first one, it's a multinational healthcare company. They They do healthcare stuff. They have some manufacturing down around Mexico City, in this case, one of their manufacturing facilities, and they need to bring it into the U.S. So they had very complex cross-border operations, and healthcare needs are shifting. They're growing in volume. There's a higher demand. This was going on through COVID. Things are very dynamic at that point in time. Their current system, the system they had before Redwood got involved, there were communication issues. There was lack of real-time visibility. The facility itself wasn't set up for what they needed to do. So there was just a lack of efficiencies operationally, not only in just basic warehousing and supply chain, but certainly in some of those crucial areas of cross-border operations for medical and healthcare devices. So they contacted us to this is our situation. What can we do? So short version, what we ended up doing was we found a building that would support their operations. We helped them size it. We designed the layout internally in that facility to do what they needed rather than just using the facility they had that was not set up that way. We did look into what they needed to do, but, and this is going to be key, we needed to enable flexibility both in the physical layout and in the WMS configuration. So with that, we did implement Oracle's Cloud WMS to support those operations. We moved it over to fully paperless, got rid of all the redundancies, real-time transactions, which with all of those real-time transactions enabled the communications between the WMS, the ERP, and the carriers, et cetera, via Redwood Connect to be much more real-time, which got rid of some of those visibility and reporting issues they were having. And by doing that, what that gave them was flexibility. So their demands, product mixes, et cetera, are changing all the time. And we needed both from a configuration standpoint to enable the warehouse operations to be changed, put away rules, picking rules, task directed, et cetera. We needed those to be flexible enough to adapt to those changes. So we traded precise optimization for a little bit of an 80-20, 90-10 to be able to make it much easier to change those as those demands fluctuated as they move forward. We did the same similar thing with the physicality of the warehouse operations. And what that gained them was, again, much greater overall service levels and improved year-to-year cost savings. And most importantly, 2 points on here, and they're a little bit out of order. We didn't have to change the broader ERP or supply chain systems like their transportation system or their carrier connectivity, et cetera. That was already in place, didn't have to mess with it. And as a result of all of that, their on-time delivery from what they had been experiencing to what we've got now and documented went from 75% to actually over 95%. So a huge improvement. That's a lot of money, lots of customer satisfaction, et cetera. So it was a great operation. But here's the thing: we set this up, we get it running, and then there was a disruption. They had the opportunity to sell off a division of their company. Now that's a good thing for everybody, making money, but the problem was all of those products were intermixed in that warehouse. And they came to us and said, guys, Redwood, we've got to fix this. We've got to get these things separated so that we can get the financials in order. The good thing about that was twofold. One, facility-wise, physical-wise, it was relatively easy to do that. We had not put warehouse management processes in place that were so specific that it would not enable us to do this rather quickly. And most importantly, Oracle WMS supports ownership of product all the way down to the license plate level. So while we had all this product mixed in to the facility to optimize Cube, we could identify each license plate in there that was connected to and now would be owned by this separate division. So we were able to very, very quickly adapt and identify those products, set up a new company within the warehouse, and allow them to just relatively immediately, honestly, move forward with the divisional sell-off. Had we not had that level of configurability, had we tried to be very, very precise, had we had pallets stacked 8 high by 8 deep in order to maximize cube, things like that, we would not have been able to do that. So when you look at these cross-border operations, you have to think about giving back some optimization for flexibility, because, you know, per some of the things that Javier said, things are changing all the time. Things are changing, if not daily, certainly weekly, quarterly, and your facility and your WMS has to be set up to take care of those. Now I'm going to give one more similar. I won't go into quite as depth on that, but I think this one is even more interesting in its own way. But this is an outdoor equipment manufacturer. Same thing, El Paso, cross-border operations. They had the opportunity to support a brand new product line. That product line was going to be manufactured in Mexico. Excellent. I want to support a lean manufacturing approach, improve distribution and efficiency cross-border, and just generally allow them to ramp up this new product line and supply their retail customers in the U.S. Obviously, you had to have a fully integrated system, you know, to make all that happen with visibility similar to it, to the example before. So what we did for them, so all right, we did a customized network design, identified that El Paso was a good cross-border point for them. We located a facility in El Paso, stood it up, same thing, make sure the layout is flexible enough that we're not constraining ourselves to what we see right now, because this is going to be a growing and ramping up product line. And then, of course, move to paperless and put in a good, solid Tier 1 WMS. We were able to do that very short time frame. Again, no change to broader ERP, SCM systems, and improved their third-party connections, allowed near real-time connectivity between the ERPs and the transportation and logistics partners, such that based on their projections, we improved their year-over-year cost savings by at least 1.4 million in the first year documented, and we reduced their order lead time over what they had proposed and some of the rudimentary stuff they were doing at the time. We reduced their lead time fulfillment by 3.5 days. Again, you know, very, very successful initial implementation. But again, another disruption, and these, by the way, both happened within the last year. They had some product quality issues coming in from Mexico, best laid plans of Mike and men. And as a manufacturer supplier, things do happen, but it's how you react to those issues, how you react to those difficulties, how you support your customer that makes the difference between a good supplier, a good partner, and someone who can't. Once those product quality issues were identified, the decision was made, we're gonna look at every single item down to the serial number, and we're gonna bring them all back in, and we're gonna make this right. So from every store, retail store in the U.S., we had to bring them all back. Now this is cross-border. Do you bring them all the way into Mexico to the manufacturer? There's a lot of issues there, right? We decided to bring them in to the same facility in El Paso that we'd been using for distribution. But that caused quite a large number of operational process changes, as you might expect. We had to remove racking. We had to do a relatively complete physical relayout of the facility and open up a large area for quality inspection and basically a remanufacture area to bring the RMAs in, do full quality inspection on them, dispense them, which was either send it back to the store, it's good, repair it here if we can, or send it back to Mexico. We did that, and they have now cycled through that, and things are back to normal. That could have put a stop to their entire operations. But again, because with understanding of the disruptions you're going to see in these type of operations, we didn't have fancy racking. we didn't have fancy WMS rules. We had good, solid functionality that allowed for that flexibility. So when that happened, honestly, it wasn't that big a deal technically to reconfigure the WMS to allow for the quality to be turned on, to record those dispensations, etc. So again, when you're looking at these, if you want to be successful in cross-border, it's a little bit different than thinking about it if rather than just a fully, say, manufacturing distribution center in Chicago, where you can be stable and you can control it. Because that lack of control changes how you think of things. And you need to focus on some of these bullets here and think about them as you're designing your warehouse and as you're implementing and configuring your WMS. First and foremost, if I haven't hit it by now, scalability and flexibility. It has to be that way. Sacrifice perfect for flexibility. It's Mexico. You obviously need customs and compliance support. If you have a global trade management system, you need to be able to integrate to that, to print out the documents, etc. I think it goes without saying multilingual and multi-currency support, multi-channel integration with external, perhaps multiple ERPs. And you do need advanced configuration beyond basic inventory. For example, in that first example I gave, if we didn't have license plating and we couldn't have identified the ownership of that product down to that license plate, which would have been very, very difficult with just basic inventory, that scenario would have gone from a pretty solid hassle to really would have stopped us in our tracks. And then near real-time shipping and logistics integration, comprehensive track and trace, which lends itself to a unified visibility, reporting, and analytics platform. And then lastly, undergirding all of this, this is both internal operations and whatever system you might put in place. It is international. You are sitting on a border. Data security and compliance is paramount to making sure that to get all the rest of that done above there, you have a good platform, a good product that will support high-end data security and compliance across the board. With that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Brent and let him do a wrap up. And thank you all for coming. Brent?
Yeah. Well, Javier and Mark, thank you both, right? I think it's always interesting to hear first, just how closely the two countries are in terms of trade partners, right? The nearshoring trends and just the level of foreign investment, I think, indicate that this is really just the beginning of that cross-border challenges for a lot of shippers. And Mark, it's always, super helpful to hear, a few specific stories, right? Every company certainly has their own unique fingerprint. And the key theme with that is really around, that flexibility. And it's all of those things tied together, right? The understanding of the nuances and really what it takes to operate within, cross-border managed freight, as well as the underlying technology piece. And it's all aimed at, enabling that comprehensive visibility to order level inventory throughout distribution, as well as transportation and all of the various moving parts from Mexico to US and vice versa. So, I think all of this is, when you key in on that feature is aimed at, just unlocking that level of visibility and insights into the cross-border warehouse operations. And it's that insight and ability to react proactively to trends and, business changes or market shifts is really where we, excel in that regard. So I wanted to wrap up our chat today with, a call to action. Hey, listen, give us a call. Drop us a note on LinkedIn. Happy to help and offer our guidance with any of these topics and really discuss, the important pieces and features of a WMS and how we can help with your operations run more efficiently and at greater scale. So again, thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.